Jack, thanks for coming on the podcast. How are you doing?
Doing great. Pleasure to be here.
Nice. It's awesome to have you on. How you doing? How's your week going?
Going well. Just working really hard. We're making big progress with the Scale network, and
Yeah.
it's just exciting times in general in crypto. So I think
Oh, very.
everybody's working around the clock right now.
I know. Super exciting times for crypto. It's been pretty crazy. Market's been all over the place.
Yeah, markets all over and just traction. I think, it's very different from 2018. I think there's like a real authentic organic lift and a
Mhm.
traction behind everything that's happening. So it's a fun time to be working in the industry.
Yeah, it definitely feels like we have less speculators in the space, like in 2017 and 18, and more so actual money going in that wants to be there. So it's exciting to see this, what I consider revaluation of the entire market and kind of shifting like the projects, like where they deserve to be in terms of market cap, in terms of, partnerships and development. And I think it's shaking up in a pretty good direction. And looks like regulations will be strict, but not overbearing and too much. And
Mhm.
a lot of ordinary people seem to like it so far, and it's going in a good direction.
Yeah. And so I started working full time. I can give you my background in a little bit, but started working full time in 2017 in the space. Uh, and I'll tell you, and that's when we started Scale. And it was just hard, like speaking towards like an actual value prop to people, like getting people to listen, because
Mhm.
I mean, we were thinking, oh yeah, maybe the entire world will be run on one dental token. Anytime you get your tooth cleaned, you're going to pay in this, like, it's just
Right.
things that just weren't realistic. We're capturing a lot of value. And this wave, I think people are generally smarter. The influencers, the analysts are smarter. The professional, like early stage venture capital investors are smarter. And I think, in general, we're all getting better at measuring real value, and we have real utility tokens. There's tokens that
Mhm.
have meaning and purpose. And so, and again, hey, there's going to be things that are overhyped. It's all part of a bull market, but always like the value will end up shifting to protocols and tokens and networks and standards that I think are driving value. And yeah, it's just a fun time to be building right now.
Oh, absolutely. What do you think that's been attributed to the most? Like, is it just the fact that some time has actually passed and these projects have actually developed a bit more and built themselves out? Or do you think people are just slightly more educated than they were a few years ago?
I think it's a mix of a lot of things, but one of the things is, so a lot of people came into the space in 2017 and 2018,
Hmm.
and you just now are seeing all of these like really sophisticated, complex projects really launching. And also, I think the regulatory side pushed and reinforced a movement where you couldn't launch a token without actually having something up and working and running if you wanted to do it in a compliant fashion. And
Right.
so and so you see like Scale, for example, it took 3 years to build the Scale network with many contributors and engineers and people working on the project. You look at other projects like Solana, Near, and Avalanche, and Polkadot, and all these other networks that are up and running. It just took a long time, and a lot of it was, I think, there were just purely crypto OGs in the space and very early adopters building,
Hmm.
and hey, they did a phenomenal job and they're still working the space, but then you just keep putting more and more talent in an industry and you have real things that are built. And then so on top of that, you have people who are educated and are looking for the right data points, they're looking for the right metrics, and they're not just following hype. And so I think it's just a different feel and a vibe, and it's maturing. It still
Hmm.
has a long ways to go, don't get me wrong, but we're in a good position, and yeah, exciting stuff.
Yeah, I'm kind of glad that this hype phase has kind of ended in a way, and that we're actually seeing some development. We're actually seeing real, genuine interest in the space, and I think that's what's going to help justify the price in the market, and also how quickly blockchain becomes a mainstay technology in the world. So
Mhm.
it's going in a good direction. Very excited about it, and definitely want to talk about how SKALE Labs is, a part of this, and everything you guys are doing there and what it is. Before we do that, though, Tell me a little bit about yourself and your background. So for my audience who don't know who you are, they can get a better idea.
I'm Jack O'Holleran. I'm the CEO of SKALE Labs. SKALE Labs is the core team building that, contributing, supporting, and helping build the SKALE network. And the SKALE network is fully open source, community owned, like Ethereum or Bitcoin. It's run not by SKALE Labs. It's run by right now 47 different validator orgs that are running over 153 nodes and with over 4,000 stakers from 90 different countries. So it's a fully decentralized network. And I've been working in tech as a founder for a very long time and based in Silicon Valley. So was with a company called Good Technology, started in 2005 there, and sold to Motorola for about $500 million. It was a cryptographic messaging platform, a mobile device management platform.
Mm-hmm.
And then actually started a digital currency company in 2008, where enterprises could tokenize resources and built that. And actually, in order to do that, had to build a very strong analytics component to make that system work. And then as the market crashed in 2008, ended up morphing that company into a company called Octana that is the leading machine learning AI company for life science, pharmaceutical and biotech with regards to optimizing commercial operations and commercial effectiveness. And it's almost every pharmaceutical rep or biotech rep in the world and marketing department uses this platform. So I come from a background of traditional tech, and I'm a builder, and I was in mobile, then AI, machine learning, and then when I saw blockchain, I got involved with blockchain early 2013, but wasn't until I really understood the power of Ethereum, and I recognized that you could build enterprise grade applications and community owned systems. And it wasn't until 2017 I saw the potential, and that's when I started working on Scale and met my co-founder Stan Kladko, who has a PhD in physics and has over 20 years of cryptography experience and has started a number of successful tech companies in Silicon Valley as well. And so Stan and I kicked this off in 2017, and just in October, the network finally launched. That's just how long it took to build something of this level of sophistication and depth, and with these types of decentralized elements and security properties. So yeah, that's my quick summary of who I am. So happy to be here today.
Yeah, we're happy to have you. And it sounds like you already got quite a background in the space anyways, so that you're very familiar with it and you've seen a lot of the ups and downs. So with Scale, what is Scale Labs exactly? And like, what's the mission?
Yeah, so Scale Labs' mission is to support the Scale network. And there's a lot of now contributing parties supporting the Scale network. And you see this structure where you have a corporation that's job is to support and help facilitate growth of a network and a technology stack. Like Protocol Labs supporting Filecoin would be a good corollary. But then there's a foundation that really, implements the token and help launch the network that Scale Labs is not affiliated with. But Scale Labs, I think the better, or maybe what you're really getting at, is what is the purpose and the mission of the Scale network? And so the Scale network is designed to, one, help scale Ethereum. That's the first goal, is almost be a layer 2 addendum to every single Ethereum application. And what makes it unique is the Scale network itself is not one blockchain that's shared by every application. Each application that deploys on Ethereum can go to the Scale network and get their own blockchain. And what happens is there's this large pool of servers. Instead of all of them running one blockchain like you see with Bitcoin and Ethereum, these servers talk to each other, and they also talk to the Ethereum mainnet. And what happens is they are able to communicate autonomously and create blockchains automatically for developers without any humans in the loop. And then each application gets its own blockchain that's incredibly fast and can run smart contracts, can run transactions. What makes this unique is it's not just, and this is why the first goal is just to scale Ethereum. The second goal is really to bring the Web3 cloud to the blockchain ecosystem. So Scale, you can run file storage, you can run machine learning, algorithms, neural network models integrated to smart contracts. What we want to do is we want to make it so you could run a fully decentralized Twitter, or Facebook or Google or Salesforce.com, or any enterprise grade application or ad platform, et cetera, on Scale. Any sort of large supercell game could be running fully decentralized with Ethereum and Scale, and obviously other components in the Ethereum ecosystem and stack.
Gotcha. So Scale is a layer 2 on top of Ethereum, correct?
I like to call it's a layer 2 plus. And I think a lot of people, there's nuances depending on your definition of what's layer 2. If there's a consensus that happens on layer 2, some people say, hey, that's not layer 2. Layer 2 is only if there's a centralized server that's running a fraud proof. And we don't think that's a good model. We prefer to use consensus and use a decentralized network to run in tandem with Ethereum. And so with Scale, you actually get layer 1 level security coupled with a layer 2 speed, if that makes sense.
That does make sense.
And additional functionality that you can't get in other networks because there's just a lot more happening because of the app specific blockchain network. It's almost like if you go to Amazon and you have I have a game, Amazon doesn't just give me access to the same big database everyone else uses. And if they did, so let's say Twitter's using the same database they give me, and all of a sudden something's trending, all of a sudden it costs me way more and makes my system slower because I'm sharing this compute load. What Amazon does is they use all this containerization and cutting edge technology to give you your own database that you can make bigger or smaller and tailor to your needs and your requirements. And Scale does the same thing, but for blockchains.
Got it. So in terms of scalability, when they create a new blockchain, for example, for a new project or a Dapps smart contract, whatever it may be, what is the scalability potential for that project? Like, is there a TPS limit per blockchain? It almost sounds like you're creating all these side chains or something. But like, how much can something scale in terms of a Dapp, or is it limited to?
I know what you're getting at. Yeah. So it's limited to about 2,000 transactions per second for a large scale chain, which is a lot, right?
Yeah, it is a lot.
Yeah. It's so, I don't think there'll be any issues with regards to throughput. But that's for a large chain. If you want a very small chain, you might be getting 20 transactions per second, but the cost is dramatically lower because you're basically buying less of the network. And it's almost like Amazon buys a bunch of servers, they run them in their server farms and their employees run them. Scale doesn't have employees. Everybody in a communal fashion owns the network, and anybody can show up, run a server, add it to the pool of servers. Then any application can show up and buy a component of that or buy a piece. And I could buy a little piece and get 20 transactions per second. I could buy a big chunk and get 2,000 transactions per second. But the cool thing about it is not just the TPS, it's that it doesn't cost the users anything when they're in the Scale chain. The developer buys the chain purchased in Scale tokens for a 6-month period or 12-month period or 24-month period. And then they can use it as much as they want up to the capacity it can handle based off of the load that they, the quantity of the network they've purchased. So let's say the network's 100 units and I purchased 1 unit and I just pay for that in advance. And when my users come, and whether it be I have a game or a DeFi application, they're not paying per byte. And so there's not unfortunately, with a lot of blockchain products, there's a reverse network effect or a negative network effect where every time I use the product, it costs me more. And so I'm disincentivized to keep using it more. I want to use it less and try to get the most out of less use. Scale, like Web 2 used to be like that. You had to pay to use things. And then they're like, hey, let's let people use it as much as possible. Then they can pay in increments with a yearly package or a monthly package. And then when they're using too much of it, they can buy more and more. And enterprise software went along the same arc. And so Scale is just frankly copying those best practices and being able to pull in while not losing decentralization or security properties.
That's good. That's good to have that principle. Is there a realistic scenario where something could potentially need more than 2,000 transactions per second, or is that asking for a lot?
I mean, I think it is. I mean, so let me just give some quick numbers.
Okay. Yeah, because I was curious about that because I wasn't sure, like, realistically, realistically, how many of these projects use or have that much platform demand in terms of TPS.
Yeah, I mean, and it's basically it's 172 million transactions a day,
Hmm.
right? That's a
Right.
lot. And so if you really were being gated, that's for a large chain. Like that's a tremendous amount of transactions. So let's say you were at a point where like, well, we need more. And maybe you don't need that many throughout the course of the day, but you might run into a peak time where like, hey, just for 1 hour a day, we're getting hammered and we need 4,000 per second or something. Like, and by the way, this isn't the issue of today. What matters more is low cost and fast finality. So it's less about the number of transactions. It's the fact that the blockchain can register that transaction in 1 second with finality,
Hmm.
compared to on Ethereum, right? We put something through and it's like 15 seconds or 60 seconds or 10 minutes if it's a big, big gas load, right? And I didn't put enough gas into that.
Right.
So and so those matter more. But what you could also do with Scale, you could actually get multiple Scale chains and try to design your smart contracts to point to different chains to try to offset the load a little bit. And in a way, you could think of Scale as shards. Instead of a side chain, it's like a shard of a big unit that keeps sharding, and you get your own shard. You may want to, just like ETH2 has 32 of these shards and they offset the load through shards.
Hmm.
An application could set up multiple smart contracts and just have them point to different shards and get more throughput if they wanted.
I always got a kick out of the fact that they called gas gas because there's so many times where someone's asked me, "Hey, did you send me Ethereum today, or did you pay me for this?" I'm like, "Oh, I was gonna wait and do it later because gas prices are too high." And they're like, "Well, what do you do? Driving it over?"
We have gas and shards, right? They're really
Right.
like great terms.
I know. Wonderful terms. They don't necessarily make sense, but in a way, I guess so.
I mean, it's like you've got to fuel the transaction, right? You're paying gas. I mean, in a
Right.
way, you're paying. It's almost not gas because gas gets burnt, right?
Hmm.
It just
Exactly.
goes into. You're really paying the miners to process your transaction, which I have to say is like the way decentralized networks should work. Eventually, the like yield per month should be lower than the transaction fees, and Ethereum crossed that threshold, and with Scale, we're excited for that threshold to be crossed as well. I think, it's at some point the inflation in the network keeps subsiding and it keeps halving, and you need transaction
Mhm.
volume to exceed. And that's when you have a real utility.
Yeah, yeah. Since we're on that topic, what do you think of Ethereum 2.0? How do you think that's played out so far?
Yeah, hey, it's a big push. It's a huge effort,
Oh
and
yeah.
Scale, we're incredibly excited about this. We started in 2017 thinking, great, we'd be building integration to ETH2 in 2019 and it's
Mhm.
2021. And, we have a base level beacon chain set up. But what that is, it's just a base blockchain, right? It's a
Mhm.
bunch of nodes that are running staking. What they're not doing is supporting transactions. And in order for that to happen, these nodes need to also be able to set up a faculty where they can also work for applications and
Mhm.
not just be a place to run stake, but to run execution of smart contracts, and be able to have like, and it's very complicated because you need your DApp needs to come and needs to be assigned to one of these shards. And then it has to be able to communicate to other shards, right?
Right.
And it's slower. And so we're going to lose a lot of composability because we have 32 different blockchains, but I actually think that's not that big of a deal. I think some of the DeFi stuff gets a little more limited, but I think we're going to get a lot more growth. And hey, I haven't heard a an updated timeline of when we're actually going to see applications live. I mean, it might be a few years, might be a year, might be
Mhm.
earlier, but I think everyone, it's just, hey, we at least got the beacon chain up and running. Okay.
Right. Well, at least there's some progress. I was kind of worried that it would just never happen because it took forever to come to consensus on anything. It was like such the opposite of like what this whole movement is about. It's like being able to come to consensus in situations where you can't, and then, well, they can't come to consensus.
Yeah, yeah, it is kind of ironic.
It's very
And
ironic. How does that, so does Ethereum 2.0 in the long run, does it benefit Scale Labs or does it hurt Scale Labs or does it not really change much?
yeah, and I think we'll talk specifically about the Scale network itself and the Scale token. I think it benefits
Mhm.
dramatically, and so it was designed to work together. So
Mhm.
you could think of it as still the ETH2 structure is a shared database, right? And imagine if we had all the applications on Amazon Web Services using one database, then I'm using my email all of a sudden costs me a lot more to send costs me money to send an email. And my email's slower because a social media application is trending, right?
Right.
Like all of a sudden TikTok's blowing up and then it costs me more to, you know, tweet something or email somebody or to run Google Maps. And,
Mhm.
and it's just not modern architecture. So app specific blockchains are the future, but they need mainnets to call upon
Mhm.
that have a like this foundational registry of who owns what. Okay. So who owns what is stored on the main chain. And then
Mhm.
all of your activities, all your smart contracts, your transactions are going to happen in a second layer. And I actually think layer two is a poor term. I actually call it the execution layer. So there's this like stability layer or security layer
Mhm.
of just, hey, here's what I have on the main net. And then when I go and use these applications, I can then enter the Scale world. And the cool thing about Scale, there's actually a network effect where the more applications that use Scale, the more that those applications can talk to each other from scale chain to scale chain and
Mhm.
not have to talk back to the mainnet.
That's cool.
And then when I want to take my money out and say, hey, I'm gonna swap I've got all these DAI in these different applications. I've got this USDC I'm using. And like, I'm gonna pull that out. I'm gonna go, do something else with it. And I pull it out, then I would leave that, and then it would release back to me whatever I then have, my new balance on the mainnet. And then let's say, hey, I want to take part of it. I'm going to go like enter this application. I'm going to use it over here. And oh yeah, actually I want to like connect my wallet. I have my wallet connected to this DeFi application. I want to go do some yield farming. I can pull it here. I actually don't need to leave and pay gas fees each time I come and go
Mhm.
within Scale. And by the way, this feature it will be released later this year. This is where the interchain messaging contract can let scale chains talk to scale chains. Right now, scale chains can just talk to the mainnet, but in the future that will be enabled, and then you have seamless interaction. So then you have a base level and then app specific levels
Mhm.
on the Dapps side.
How does that work exactly? So does that allow like one DApp to talk to another DApp on the Scale network or?
Exactly. And
Okay.
it's so the internet is built off this premise of loosely coupled databases. Okay. It's not one
Mhm.
database where everything can talk to everything in real time. They actually have to like message. It's asynchronous. It's not this like atomic thing that can just happen, right?
Mhm.
And so databases and applications have to speak to other applications. They do that like through messaging, right? And boom, I can send a note here. And so blockchains are these like unified structures currently. But then you look, and I think Cosmos may have been the first one to say, hey, like we believe in app specific blockchains. And that was our vision too since 2017. It just made sense. We'd thought of it, and then we started doing this research, and we're like, oh, well, okay, other people think it's a good idea. Compound just announced plans to build a proof of authority app specific blockchain because they're saying,
Mhm.
hey, like we're not getting what we need from the Ethereum mainnet. Let's go build something. And the good news is Scale already exists. I don't know if they don't know that yet, but they could use Scale and have their own app specific blockchain. So
Mhm.
anyways, I think this is coming, and so so when you think of scale, each chain can talk to each chain in a similar fashion to applications can talk to applications in the modern internet is how scale is designed to function and look.
Did you reach out to them, ask them to come on?
Actually, we haven't yet, and but I'm going to.
You should.
But they obviously have big plans to build their own blockchain. But
Mm-hmm.
I feel, I guess, I better go make them aware. Like, hey guys, you don't have to do
Just
that.
pitch it to them. It's too much time. It's too much money. Just come try Scale. Hop on our network. Got you. Come on, Compound.
Yeah. And a big piece of it too. There's a lot of hype in crypto, and so you look at Scale. Like one of the things we decided as a community was, let's announce partnerships, and let's go really push when we have something real. And so there's 70 applications signed up right now, testing, running in the Scale Innovator Program. And now at the end of this month or the very beginning of February, Scale chains are going to start going live. The network's been live since October, but the chain structures do this Scale to Ethereum connector now is finalized and has gone through auditing. So we wanted to get it through 2 audits. So it went through audits, and the audits will be published really soon. And then the chains are going to go live. And then now that things are real and live, we're going to go to everybody and say, hey, here it is. Like, you can actually use this. It's not a conceptual, magic fix to Ethereum, which I think what we've had to date is a lot of conceptual things that are going to fix things. And then things that are like interim steps, like people launching 4 node side chains and saying it's like the answer, one side chain that's 4 nodes. I won't call that out, which project that is, but we could have done that in 18 months ago, but we wanted to wait till something that was the real answer for the long run was ready. And it's finally ready to go. And there's a ton of demand. So we're excited.
Yeah, it's exciting to see this in action. Like, I'm looking forward to it. How does Scale stack up versus competition out there, or is there a competition?
Yeah, so there's competition on 2 levels. So what it comes down to is what matters is developer choice. And I think a lot of people underestimate the power of developers to guide these markets. So you look at Microsoft. Why was Microsoft so successful? And Apple. Well, both of them catered to developers. And Microsoft was the first kind of inventor of this business to developer operating model. You have B2B, B2C, and then business to business, business to consumer. Then there's business to developer. So you're not selling anything, but you're educating, you're creating awareness, you're creating support, and you're helping developers make decisions about platforms. And developers, by and large, are picking Ethereum. Okay, so I think we can't underestimate the power of Ethereum right now and what's happening with the developer traction. And so then when you think about developers, let's say I have a game, then how are they going to scale Ethereum? And so right now they're saying, well, I either have to leave Ethereum, maybe I'll go build on Polkadot, maybe I'll go build on Cosmos or some other blockchain or Near or Solana. And generally people aren't willing to do that. They have all their smart contracts audited. They don't want to risk the security. They don't want to rebuild all their platform. They don't want to go try to access new tooling. Sometimes they do. You see, these other projects talk about this, but the vast majority of apps are going on Ethereum. Okay. So then one, we're competing saying, hey, like build on Ethereum. 2, then it's build on Scale plus Ethereum. And then their options are, hey, what other layer 2 models can I use? And I think there's different ways, we look at that equation. And so to summarize this, either A, you leave Ethereum, you build on an entirely different blockchain. B, you say, I'm going to be on Ethereum, but I'm going to use a centralized system where, or there's quasi decentralized versions of this, but a centralized system where, hey, I'm going to pay somebody to run a fraud proof. I'm going to pay them to run a rollup, a ZK rollup, an optimistic rollup. I'll pay a company. They run a server that checks this sidechain ledger to ensure things are accurate. Okay. Right. But then you're centralized. That doesn't work for many, many use cases. The other option is people are trying to design these kind of like randomized or like auction models to determine which node gets to be the node that runs the fraud proof. But then you have an issue of like, okay, like, so I could bid in this auction to run the operating node, and then I need to, in theory, bid more than the value of the chain, or the security's not there, right?
Right.
And so I could say, hey, I've got a ZK rollup, but there's this auction model. That to me isn't very effective. Like, we've decided not to do that, because at the end of the day, you're using an auction model to do what you could do with what Scale does, and we'd rather use blockchain than these other things. So another option is you just run a traditional side chain where it's a fixed set of operators, and and then there's all of these nodes out there, and it's a fixed number, and people go to them. There's way less of these nodes than there are in the mainnet, and so it costs less to use this. And if 2/3 of them go bad, they could just steal all the money. And if you look at the money staked into these networks, like, there's not very much. And you can see this on DeFi Pulse. And then you have a model with Scale. Actually, the Ethereum mainnet is where the stake lives, and the Ethereum mainnet helps orchestrate the Scale network. And all of these nodes work together, and then at any given time, 16 of them are going to work for you. And so let's say there's 1,000 nodes in the network, and I say, I want a chain. I pay the Ethereum mainnet. Ethereum, through Ethereum security, assigns these nodes to work for me, and it gives me a blockchain. And then I have the same thing as a side chain, but it's pulled from a big pool, and then it's rotated. And then, hey, these nodes are going to switch. And so you get this randomness, and then this rotation. And then there's also a stake component. And so you're staking into the network. And at Scale right now, I think there's about 350 million USD staked in the network, which is dramatically more than any kind of layer 2 solution.
That's a lot.
And so just the cost of attacking each application is incredibly high. And so that's the model we've picked. And so when we go and we talk to applications, we just like try to educate them, make them know the risks of every model. On Scale, if 2/3 of the nodes said, hey, like, we're going to be bad, and we're going to give up like, hundreds of millions of dollars of stake just to steal money, that could, they could steal your money. But the same thing could happen on Ethereum today. 51% of the miners could say, hey, let's take the money. But at the end of the day, they don't do it because they're financially incentivized to act with the right behavior. And that's how blockchains work. If you go to the other end of the spectrum, where you're not using a blockchain, but you're using a ZK technique or a roll-up or a plasma, those aren't blockchains. Those are using a fraud-proof mechanism to try to validate things are accurate. But then you have to pull in one server. And if that one server gets corrupted, the money could be taken.
Right. I didn't know you guys did staking. Is that any bit similar to staking on any other blockchain, or is that a separate process? How does it work?
Yeah, it's a great question. So it's very similar to staking on ETH2 or Cosmos or a lot of these other proof of stake networks. So Scale is a proof of stake network. So anybody who has a Scale token right now, you can go to the consensus activate page and you can stake. And there's a couple other partnerships that are launching too, where you can go to these other places. And what you do is you have your tokens, and you can, whether they be on, like, you have to pull them out of an exchange. Let's say you have them on Binance or somewhere, you pull them out, you get them into MetaMask or a Ledger wallet or something. And then you just literally, it's an ERC 777. So your token never leaves your possession, but it's able to send a signal to the Scale network and the Ethereum mainnet that says, hey, I want to stake. And then let's say you had like 100 Scale tokens. Each month you're going to get 1.1 Scale tokens in return. And that equation is based off how many stakers there are and the stake rate of the network. But right now it's about, I think, 1.12% return per month. And so if you had $1 million worth of Scale tokens and the price stayed exactly the same, you would make 1.1% a month back off that $1 million.
It's 1.1% a month.
Yeah, return of token on token return, not dollar return. And that's like
Okay.
the yield you get for staking your token.
So that's like a 12% yield on the year?
Yeah.
It's
Well, a
pretty
little
good.
more, right? Yeah. Be if it's compounding and you're, depends if you're
Right.
taking your turn, then you
Oh,
keep
that's
restaking it
true.
and then
I
keeps
get, yeah,
getting
if it's
higher. Yeah.
compounding over and you're taking what you earned in staking and you're staking that, then yeah, I guess exponentially it would go up.
Over a 5-year period, if you staked and you compounded every month, you'd have double your starting amount.
I guess I'm gonna have to go buy some after this, huh?
Hey, I'm not, I can't give anybody advice on how to spend your money at all.
Of
It's,
course. We
but
don't give
I'm
any
a
investment
believer.
advice on this podcast from the
Yes.
guest or the host, so don't
Yeah.
even go there.
Yeah, but I am a believer in utility tokens, and what I
Mhm.
do try to promote people to do is to actually stake your tokens, because you're actually participating in networks. And whether you're staking in a proof of stake network like Scale, or you're taking tokens and you're participating in, like, you're putting them into Uniswap and participating in liquidity pools, you're actually participating in blockchains. And it's I think really, like, it's a different feeling and a different experience, and you're actually a co-owner. These there's no such thing as like a share ownership, but it's like everybody who has Bitcoin owns a part of the Bitcoin network, and everybody who has a part of the Scale network has part of the Scale network. And if you stake your tokens, you also get to vote with your tokens.
Mhm. Yeah, it's like the most interesting thing in the world. It's like having a share, but it's not really a share of anything in particular. It's like just the whole one of us mantra. You're just one of us.
Yeah. Yeah, and shares are securities. Like, they give you
Exactly.
ownership. They entitle you a certain percentage of an entity, and profit and revenue and whatever
Mhm.
comes with that. And tokens done the right way are actually utilities, and they have functional software, uh, I guess, roles. And
Mhm.
in Scale, you can stake your token and provide security to the network and get more tokens in return. You can pay with the token to buy a Scale chain. You can take your tokens, stake them, and then vote. And let's say we want to change the price of a Scale chain.
Mhm.
There's a proposal. You can actually vote if your tokens are staked. And then what you have is actually a democratized business where everybody's a co-owner, but you're not just a co-owner, you're like a co-contributor or co-participator,
Right.
which is a pretty cool thing.
That is really cool. A lot of cool stuff you guys are doing. Really excited to see all this like fully rolled out. Do you guys have any like current use cases? Like you have projects on right now that are using it, or you have people just kind of waiting on the sideline until everything's 100% good to go, or what's the situation there?
Yeah, we have 70 different uh, projects, companies, government organizations,
Mhm.
DAOs, et cetera, signed up in the innovator program testing. And what we're going to do is, I think there'll be about 20 that launch initially over the first, like 20 to 40 days or something.
Mhm.
And next week, we're going to start announcing them just kind of like one by one, and announce them by use case. So what we want to show is the breadth of use cases. So I think we're going to have like a use case display or use case roadshow and show
Mhm.
everybody, hey, what can the network do? And so DeFi applications, gaming, um, DAOs, voting protocols, um, uh, B2B applications. Um, there's just a ton of use cases. Social media platforms, like decentralized social media platforms,
That'd be nice.
decentralized music. Yeah, yeah, right. Yeah, decentralized music platforms. Like, there's just, it's like power to the people. Wherever you see middlemen taking like a huge control of or a huge amount of profit and control, right? And I
Mhm.
think regardless of anybody's political beliefs, nobody's happy with the way any of these big mega tech companies operate. No one's
Oh,
happy with them. And they're
no one can be
basically
happy.
like, yeah, they're like judge, jury, and executioner. And like, there's limited data, limited visibility, and how they make decisions. And and I think decentralized social networks, the goal of them isn't to create these like societies where people can just say whatever they want that could be illegal. But what they do is they give people like a transparent place to like communicate and then govern themselves. And the
Right.
people can govern, the people have visibility into the rules. Like, well, what is the algorithm saying? You know, when I post something, am I being untrended because someone's political belief, like that works at the company? Or am I being censored in a way I shouldn't? And I think it's, that's a big, broad topic, but the
Mm-hmm.
goal isn't to have like a lawless society. The goal is to have a more transparent society that can implement its laws better and let
Right.
the people, just like the people govern the laws by voting, the people should be able to govern the systems they use by voting.
Right. I think that's a huge area where blockchain can play a massive role in fixing social media in some ways. Because I never talk about politics, and I'm never going to take one
Yeah.
side or the other, especially on the
Yeah.
podcast. But what I will say is that if you have a single platform that is capable of silencing our own president, something's inherently wrong, like badly. Like that
Mhm.
shouldn't happen. Of all the people they do censor, you shouldn't be able to censor the executive branch of our government. So whether you like him or hate him, it's fundamentally just wrong, in my opinion. There's something that needs to be fixed there. There's got to be a better checks and balance system. But it's definitely one area that could use some fixing up, because it's not just that situation. There's a lot of scenarios where people are feeling censored or silenced or even throttled. Like plenty of people that think their accounts just get throttled down so they don't get the same reach. It hurts businesses, hurts individuals that are entrepreneurs, while they throttle up other things for incredibly stupid reasons. Reason why
Yeah.
TikTok does so well, they throttle up accounts for people that have certain interests versus just a normal business or a normal person. They throttle your account down so you get less reach.
Yeah.
So you got to
Yeah.
ask,
Yeah.
is that fair to people?
Yeah, and that's I think the beauty of these networks. And again, I'm also like, always try to take a somewhat apolitical stance. I just not
Mm-hmm.
worth, it. I,
Yeah.
and but what I do care about is like, transparency
Mm-hmm.
and like I actually think policing, if you can hear and see what people are saying, it's easier to police them and implement laws to have then consequences. It's like,
Right.
so yeah. And so like, I'm not at all in favor of any sort of lawless society at all. It's really, I'd love to see users have more control over their networks
Mm-hmm.
and whatever way that is, right? And let's just let the people not like, because the reality is it's a group of executives living in San Francisco or whatever city that just have like an unbelievable amount of control. And regardless of your political beliefs, like you're being negatively impacted by that in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah. Well, we need rules. I mean, society only exists because there are rules. Like you can't walk down the
Mm-hmm.
street, mug your neighbor, steal his wallet, run into the coffee shop. And, there's rules that make society, livable.
Mm-hmm.
But it's what rules can everyone agree on. So I think that's
Yeah.
the fundamental
Yeah.
aspect.
Like, yeah, it's crazy stuff's happening, man. And I have to tell you, it's going to be an interesting, I think, like, I don't have a crystal ball. I don't even have like a good, like really great understanding what's going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
But it'll be interesting when you remove a set of executives that are in control of networks and you get a set of people. And so people starting like Minds, for example, starting a social media platform, like they're going to need to have systems to govern their networks. What if people are putting, bad types of nudity on the network? Well, that, they're going to need to have ways to control that, but it's not a set of people. It's a set of protocols.
Mm-hmm.
And then you need to have governance mechanisms so that people can make sure things are happening, not like, so basically it's decentralization to the rescue, but it doesn't alleviate all the problems. What it will need to do is it'll just make all the users more responsible for the
Right.
products they use.
Absolutely. Yeah. There's a lot that we
Which is awesome, in
unpacked.
my opinion.
Oh yeah, totally
Yeah.
awesome. There's a lot that we've unpacked here, so I think there's a lot of good information on this episode. Um, but yeah, before we like wrap up and finish here, um, where can people go to learn and follow Scale Labs and the Scale Network, and then how can they also keep up with the updates that are coming out? You said like a week or so, the announcements.
Yeah, so the best way, so you can go to the website, it's scale.network. And if you're watching a video, scale with a K, SKALE .network. You'll find links to the Telegram channel, which is at Scale Official, the Twitter at Scale Network. You can follow me at Jack O'Holleran on Twitter, and you'll by going to the website, it'll be immediate access into all these different areas. If you're a developer, you can go to the Discord, go to scale.chat. Yeah, hey, this is, Scale Labs Inc. started this, but gave the technology and the money away a long time ago. And we kind of think of ourselves as like humble supporters of the network. And it's a network we all own, and we welcome everybody to come join and participate and stake and play a part in governance. Because, we talked about social media platforms. Well, software systems need governance too, and it shouldn't just be a set of executives. So, right. Please come be a co-owner and voter and part of the democracy of the Scale Network.
Yeah, and also thanks for coming on and sharing a little bit with the audience and the people out there. A lot of them they'll get a chance to see and hear about Scale Labs and the Scale Network and what you guys are all about. And best of luck to you guys as you roll out these announcements. And it sounds like it'll be a fun and exciting transition.
Yeah, we're looking forward to it. It's go time, and I think everyone working in the space full time, like myself, I think there's just a passion to get real usage. We need real users. We need to make real impact, and I think this is the year, and it's go time. So
yeah, and what better time too? What better time than when the market is really surging in the right direction? You got this interest. Great time for announcements.
Yep. Yeah. So, hey, it'll be fun. Hey, thank you so much for having me on. It was my pleasure.
Absolutely. Feel free to come on anytime in the future. It's awesome having you. Stay safe, stay healthy. Talk to you soon.